Welcome to Business Edge Radio, the show that gives you tips, tricks, tools, and techniques about how to build a more profitable business, while at the same time creating your perfect lifestyle. It's a show about working less and living more. A few golden nuggets, a little bit of wisdom, and over 35 years of business experience to help you keep your edge. Lifestyle entrepreneur, best-selling author, internationally renowned business speaker, and daddy of three, Mitch Graff brings the heat with actionable techniques for building the business and lifestyle of your dreams. Now your host, Mitch Graff.
Well, hello there, my Unleashed Tribe, and welcome to another scintillating edition of Business Edge Radio, the ultimate brainstorming session for your business and your life. I'm your host, Mitch Graff, and on today's show, we're going to be talking about all the different ways that there are to promote and market your business. I have an eye-opening interview with Mollie McGlocklin, who's going to be talking with us about how to maximize your waking hours by making sure you get proper sleep. I review a great book called The Customer Rules, and my recipe today is for homemade roasted garlic, basil, and tomato hummus. So make sure you hang out until the end for that. How many ways are there to promote and advertise your business? Let me count the ways. There's price lists, websites, pens, brochures, internet ads, bumper stickers, flyers, magazine ads, calendars, business cards, search engines, newspaper ads, direct mail, signage, gift certificates, merchant co-ops, billboards, welcome wagons, slideshows, gift cards, videos, auto wraps, mall displays, charity events, table tents, business displays, church directories, bookmarks, promo raffles, business fairs, newsletters, county fairs, referral programs. Affiliate programs, telemarketing, yellow pages, Google AdWords, Facebook ads, vendor programs, networking, keychains, coffee mugs, radio ads, notepads, window displays, TV commercials, magnets, hot air balloons, pencils, t-shirts, banners. I need a break. We have so many choices when it comes to making a purchase, and advertising and promotion attempts to get a company or a product put right in the front of our brain. There's 3 grades of gasoline, there's 10 types of milk, 10 types of batteries, 3 sizes of fries, and 20 kinds of toothpaste. Some people only buy the most expensive, and some people only buy the cheapest. But regardless of what you're selling, someone else out there is selling it cheaper, better, and faster. Why would they pay more for your products or services? Well, it's because of that perceived value. They think that they will get more from you than they will the other guy. And if you don't already believe in yourself, why would anyone else? Ultimately, the key to great marketing is you must be heard. If you have something great but don't have the means to let people know about it, you will fail. You want people to talk about you and be able to easily find you. And keep in mind that this is not optional. You cannot not market, just like you cannot not answer the phone. If somebody calls and you answer, you're marketing. If you don't answer, you're still marketing. If I were to get a blue widget, something that we all sold in common, and spread them on the floor, then asked a typical customer to select the best, I imagine they would have a difficult time making a choice. The fact is, many would look alike, would have the same features, the same benefits, same everything. And unless you have some sort of innovative feature that brings a hidden benefit, most of the widgets would look and feel the same to a prospective customer. If that's the case, the result is the pricing war, and you lose that battle every single time. Your overall goal is to somehow create extra value for yourself, your products and your services, so you can charge more, make more, and have more time off. Can I get an amen? There are literally hundreds of things that you can do to promote your business, but I broke it down into what I feel are the top 10. Number 1 is literature. This category contains your business cards, your price lists, flyers, postcards, direct mail pieces, statements, letterhead, your box stuffers, your brochures, and anything else that has your name and logo printed on it. When a potential customer first lays eyes on or touches your business card or visits your website, they will immediately form an opinion regarding what they feel you are worth. How does it look? How does it make you feel? What would you think if someone were to hand you your business card? Do you use paper stock that you find in the clearance bin at the local office supply store, or do you use high-quality designer stock? And remember, everything that the customer sees, touches, smells, observes, or feels goes into determine what they are willing to pay for your products and services.
It's okay to use the half-price discontinued stock if you're not aiming for an upscale reputation. I had a gentleman approach me several years ago after a keynote speech I had given with a stack of his marketing collateral and a business card. He was struggling to stay afloat and was looking for some input and some direction. I recognized his name as someone in the industry who was extremely well respected and had been around for quite some time. When he handed me the stack of papers, I knew immediately what the problem was. His business card was printed on thin stock paper with faded black ink. He printed them himself, and his price list was photocopied in his office, complete with black streaks running down the middle of each page. My first impression, I wouldn't want to invest any time and any money with him if I were a customer, regardless of how great he was at what he did. What would you think if someone handed you your business card? Ask yourself whether the quality of your literature reflects the market position you want to occupy. If not, change it today. Here's a side story about a small mistake that turned into a big problem for a pretty small business person. This guy ordered 10,000 full-color direct mail pieces to send to prospective customers who lived within his target market. He had recently moved to the area and wanted to introduce his business to the community. He offered a free all-you-can-eat pizza feast, complete with breadsticks and soft drinks for his open house, along with lots of door prizes and other things. He listed all his products and services and offered several specials for customers who signed up for his services at the open house. He purchased an expensive list that gave him only the best qualified leads for his business. The folks in the list made at least X dollars, drove X cars, lived in X neighborhood, all the right stuff. He got his family to help stamp each piece, then prepared his staff for what was sure to be a gigantic influx of phone calls and walk-ins on the day the piece was to hit the mailboxes. The day finally came and went, without as much as a single call. He waited and waited and waited and waited. 4 days went by before the first call came in, and the person said, "Hey, is this the business that's offering the free pizza party? I would love to take advantage of specials, but I got to tell you, it was hard to get a hold of you. Your name and your address or phone number weren't listed on your mailing." Even though he had put a lot of time and effort, and not to mention money, he forgot to add his name, address, and phone number. Very expensive mistake. Simple rule number 212. Always have several sets of eyeballs proofread any marketing materials that a customer sees. This can prevent a lot of simple to correct mistakes. Now back to our show. Number 2 is curb appeal. Whether you have a brick and mortar business or are only online, your so-called curb appeal is one of the first items that a prospective customer comes in contact with, and they will make this judgment within about 5 seconds. That's not much time to make a great first impression and get them wanting to know more about you. If your website hasn't been updated in several years and you need to take a bulldozer to it, you may want to consider allocating some resources to getting your site up to snuff. Same rules apply for a physical location that you might have. The cleanliness of the windows, the professionalism of any landscaping that you have, the colors, the fonts, the smells that are wafting through the air when they walk in. It all goes into that perceived value that a prospect gives your business. Speaking of websites, that's number 3. You've heard it said before that your website is a 24/7 silent salesperson. Today, nearly every business must be on the internet in some form, either as a website, a blog, a YouTube channel, or on social media platforms. There are many companies that offer simple software programs that allow you to have a site up and running in a matter of minutes if needed. Or if you're not tech savvy, you can choose to hire a professional webmaster to build a beautiful site for you. The cost of having a custom site has dropped like a lead balloon as the influx of talented web designers have entered the workforce. Long gone are the days where you needed to spend thousands of dollars to get a functional, multi-page site online that is interactive, informational, and educational. Aside from marketing, the internet is a wonderful sales tool as well. In fact, there's a new breed of entrepreneurs who are making 100% of the revenues online without ever meeting a customer or handing out a price list. These folks put all their focus into their website, sales funnels, social media marketing, and email databases in order to generate their sales dollars. It's a very fast-growing industry, and many of these businesses do not have the foundational business acumen that most other businesses require in order to be successful. Many of these individuals have a grand total of 0 experience running a business and know nothing about sales, marketing, branding, or any other traditional business skills. Having been in business for over 30 years, my guess is that many of these online businesses will be short-lived and will be replaced with other short-lived businesses, and they'll be replaced with other short-lived businesses. So it's a vicious cycle. It is still important that you have a certain level of business know-how in order to have staying power in the market, not just a get-rich-quick scheme, whether you have a physical storefront or are virtual. Number 4 is advertising. And this is the most expensive type of marketing. At the top of the show, I listed just a handful of items that you can spend money on. And a lot of those things, you don't get any return on your money investment or your time investment because they don't require you to become personally involved in the success or failure of the program. You can easily get sucked into advertising in every form, but without careful monitoring, you'll eat money faster than you can eat a pig at a pig roast. A word of caution, regardless of the type of advertising that you engage in, you must make sure it fits into your overall goals and objectives for your business. Many businesses have disappeared due to overzealous advertising campaigns, so make sure you have your ducks in a row before jumping into expensive advertising. Number 5 is your pricing. Once a potential customer believes something, it's tough to change their minds. The prices that you charge and that you choose are also a form of marketing. If you're cheap, you are marketing. If you're the most expensive, you are also marketing. Enough said. Number 6 is press releases. If you can inspire people to talk about you, there is little need to pay people to talk about you. All you need to do is tell the media something about what might happen, has happened, or will happen. Let the local media know that you hired a new office manager, you won a prestigious award, you expanded your business, you've added new products or services, or you're hosting some sort of special event. Editors are constantly looking for any newsworthy item for your business section, and almost every small town in the United States still has a local newspaper. They are always looking for information. You can let them know that you were invited to speak at a convention or an association meeting, you published a new book, or you've even donated to a local nonprofit charity. These are all legitimate reasons to write a press release. If you think that certain businesses are constantly being mentioned in the local newspaper and the chamber newsletter, you're probably right. If you want to be considered the expert, you must look and sound like one. If nobody has appointed you the expert, appoint yourself. Blow your own horn. Your goal is to create awareness for your business, which in turn will lead to an increased value for your products and services. If you can generate more interest, why not try it? Number 7 is your time. We are all on equal footing when it comes to time. We each have 24 hours in a day, no matter who we are. Is one of your hooks that you are open at night? How about available on weekends when most people are off? The way you use your time can be an effective marketing tool if done correctly. Number 8, referral networks. By far, the referral network is your biggest ally. It's your most powerful marketing resource, and it can take your business to levels never dreamed of. After all, referred customers spend more money, generally they're happier, they stay with you longer, and they come to you mostly sold. So let's talk about different types of referral networks that you can build. The first network is made up of other professionals that are in the same industry or a complementary industry as yours. This could be a supply house, another business professional that belongs to your local networking group, like the Chamber of Commerce, or a personal acquaintance that knows the quality service that you provide. Not only can they be an excellent source of referrals, you can also partner with them for cross promotions. You may have already partnered with a group like this, or maybe you haven't invested much time or effort in developing this circle of peers. In either case, I challenge you to sit down with a pen and paper and brainstorm until you come up with a list of other businesses you would like to develop a more substantial relationship with. Once you've created your list, there are some simple things you can do to get the ball rolling. You can mail an invitation to a special open house at your place of business to discuss some mutually beneficial aspects of partnering together. During this event, you can exchange information to become better educated about each other. You can also pick up the phone and give them a call or go visit them at their place of business. I guarantee they are just as interested in cracking the marketing code as you are. This kind of networking doesn't cost you anything but some time, but can bring you huge results. The second type of referral network, and by far the most neglected, is comprised of your past and present customers. You probably have hundreds, if not thousands of past customers in your database who know, like, and trust you. They've already purchased from you and are probably willing to do business with you again if given a compelling reason. And what are you doing with these happy customers? Their positive testimonies are largely untapped, and their ability to refer other new customers still is virgin soil. If you aren't already taking advantage of your customers' testimonials to earn new referrals, you can start that today. Create a short questionnaire to give or email to your customers. Offer some sort of a bonus if they're willing to refer their family and friends to you. And be sure that the questionnaire asks them to rate their total experience so you have an idea on areas where you can stand some improvement. But I recommend you stay away from questionnaires that allow people to just give a number or check a box. You want them to have to write an answer. You want to obtain as much information as possible from them, so ask them to write out their answers in descriptive terms. At the bottom of the form, ask their names, their addresses, phone numbers of friends and family who might be interested in doing business with you. Then send them the offer that they can't refuse in the email, in the regular mail, in person, or via your current customers. Whatever you do, you need to strike while the iron is hot. If you wait too long, the afterglow is gone. The entire sales and marketing games are built on creating positive emotions, and you will lose momentum if you do wait too long. The best marketers understand this dynamic and develop the emotional trappings to guarantee a fantastic experience. If a customer says to you, "Man, we love what you do and are happy to be doing business with you," ask them to put it in writing. Testimonials are king, and make getting them a top priority for your business. On this note, keep in mind that there's only two kinds of service, great and bad. Mediocrity makes little or no impression on most people. Make it your goal to go above and beyond the call of duty when it comes to providing gold medal, 6-star, top-notch, #1 rated customer service. This is the best way to create customers for life and keep the referral highway filled with traffic. There's no better form of marketing than the existence of a happy customer list, along with the referral network of other professionals. If you get this right, you will never have to spend money on expensive advertising ever again. Number 9 is your email database. While the short-term goal of a marketing campaign is to get customers to come to you for the first time, the overall goal is to keep them coming back time and time again over a period of time. If you've done a good job of collecting data from your customers, this database really is priceless. Keep in touch with them on a regular basis so you have top-of-mind awareness. Sending a consistent email newsletter or mailing them a special offer or a gift card will limit the amount of dollars that you spend outside of this circle. Number 10 is phone calls and website visitors. Now, the goal of any effective campaign is to get the phone to ring and to drive a prospect to your website, right? If this doesn't happen, all the marketing in the world is useless. But do you understand how much money it costs you to make your phone ring or to get a visitor to your website? If not, you now have your homework assignment for the week. Regardless of what activities you engage in to get the word out about who you are and what you do, the bottom line is to get people interested in your business. You do that, I promise you, good things will happen.
For all the listeners of Business Edge Radio, I have a special gift for you. I want to give you a free copy of my book, High Voltage Branding, Go From Ordinary to Extraordinary, as my way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. The book covers the most important elements of how to develop a great brand, build a loyal fan base for your products and services, and ways to identify if your brand is broke. Whether you're an old-timer or have a new business venture, having an impeccable brand is vital to your success. And this book will give you lots to think about. Simply go to powermarketing101.com/freebook. That's powermarketing101.com/freebook to download your free copy of the book High Voltage Branding, Go From Ordinary to Extraordinary, as my special way of saying thanks for being a fan of the show. Hi there, this is Mitch Graff, the host of Business Edge Radio. Would you do me a couple of very big favors? First, I invite you to subscribe, rate, and review the show on iTunes. This will help other forward thinkers just like you discover the show. Second, I ask that you share this show on your social media platforms. And third, I would love it if you connected with us on social at Unleashed Tribe on Facebook and Instagram, or log on to powermarketing101.com to find more great resources. If you could do this for me, you would be a superhero in my book, and I would be eternally grateful.
I'm always looking for ideas on how to better serve my team members, my customers, and when I saw this book, I knew that I had to give it a read. Our book today is The Customer Rules, the 39 Essential Rules for Delivering Sensational Service by Lee Cockerell. We've all heard the phrase, customer's always right, or the customer rules. Well, the executive VP of Walt Disney World not only shows why the customer always rules, but also shares the 39 indispensable rules for delivering the sensational service that keeps customers coming back for more. Through his signature blend of humor and wisdom and folksy storytelling, Lee reveals everything he's learned in his career in the hospitality and entertainment industries about serving customers with such consistency, efficiency, creativity, and sincerity that they will never want to do business with anyone else but you. The end result? Customers are happy. Lee also held executive positions with Hilton Hotels and Marriott, so I think he knows a thing or two about what it takes to make customers happy and satisfied. He knows that success in business, any business, depends upon winning and keeping customers. In these 39 digestible, bite-sized chapters, he shares everything he's learned in his 40-plus year career about creating an environment that keeps customers coming back for more. Examples of the chapters: rule number 1, customer service is not a department. Rule number 3, great service follows the law of gravity, means it trickles down. Rule number 5, ask yourself, what would my mom do? Rule 19, be a copycat, meaning it's okay to study how the big boys do it and structure your customer service foundation on their shoulders. Rule number 25, treat every customer like a regular. As simple as they are profound, these principles have been shown to work in companies as large as Disney and as small as the local coffee shop, from businesses selling cutting-edge technologies like computer tablets to those selling products as timeless as shoes or handbags. And they have been proven indispensable at all levels of a company, from managers responsible for hiring and training employees, setting policies and procedures, and shaping the company culture, to frontline staff who deal directly with clients and customers. Chock full of universal advice, The Customer Rules is the essential handbook for service excellence everywhere. And you hear stories every day about great service and poor service and everything in between. This simple statement hit me pretty hard. Great service does not cost any more than average service or poor service. When it costs nothing more to offer a smile and a kind word, why isn't it the norm instead of the exception? Your service statement should inspire your staff to new heights of delivering world-class 6-star customer service to your customers. In the chapter on hiring the best people, Cockerell talks about the time he learned to stop asking leading questions in interviews. We all know that interviewing can bring great results, but when the question sets the person up to sound like a rock star, whether they truly are or not, it reduces the value of the responses that they provide. An example he gives is, tell me about a time you went above and beyond to satisfy a customer. He says a better question that you could ask is, tell me about a time you served a customer. And then you judge if it truly is above and beyond type of experience. My biggest takeaway, it doesn't take any more time to give your customers impeccable service than it does to completely drop the ball and send your customers to one of your competitors. So why not be sure you are doing things the right way? You can find this book, as well as many other great reads, at powermarketing101.com/hotlist. That's powermarketing101.com/hotlist.
For a good part of my adult life, my brain has had a difficult time shutting down at the end of the day. And even though I've never been given the tag of an insomniac, I would still say that I'm an official card-carrying member of the club. My hunch is that many of you also may have some challenges when it comes to shutting off your genius thinking mechanism at the end of your day as well.
Hey, we all have these ideas in our brains on how to solve the world's problems or create a new product or launch a new business concept. And it's tough sometimes making our minds relax to the point where we can get a good night's rest. Think about this. When you do get a great sleep, don't you wake up full of zest and zeal, ready to conquer the universe? Your mind's excited, your body feels rested, and you can't wait to get started on your day. On the other hand, on those days when you don't get a good rest, you wake up irritable and groggy, lacking the enthusiasm to tackle your day. Not a good way to begin a day in anyone's life. Well, my guest today is a creator of Sleep is a Skill, a company that optimizes how people sleep through a unique blend of technology, accountability, and behavioral change. The company was born from scratching her own itch after a lifetime of poor sleep habits culminated into a mega challenging bout with insomnia that lasted for months. With a background in psychology and human behavior, she went down the rabbit hole to solve her own sleep disturbances without sleeping aids. Today, she works with people to improve their sleep by strengthening their circadian rhythm. Knowing the difference between a life without sleep and with it, she's now dedicated her life to sharing the forgotten skill set of sleep. I don't think you'll have any trouble staying awake for my eye-opening interview with Mollie McGlocklin. Well, Mollie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. I know we were chatting beforehand, and I'm very excited to discuss more with you today. This is great.
That's wonderful. Well, one of the things that really caught my eye and drew my attention to you was the fact that several years ago, you were a pretty severe insomniac.
Yes.
And I have to, in full transparency, I would guess most of my adult life, at least 30 years, I have had no problem falling asleep. But you know what? 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 2 o'clock, I'm wide awake, ready to go. And I knew that wasn't healthy. So, I'm probably the president of the Entrepreneurs Insomniac Club. Anyway, how bad did it get for you when you were right in the middle of the deepest depths that you experienced?
Yeah, great question. So it got so bad for me that in my life, it really served as kind of, I feel like there's a handful of times in your life where you kind of draw a line in the sand where you cannot continue the way you've been doing things. And that was one of those moments for me as it related really to sleep. Sleep became the way, pretty much it seemed as if my body was telling me that the way I was managing my life, my businesses, just from pretty much for the minute I woke up in the morning to the end of the day was just not working. And how it got manifested was I, for many years, thought of myself as a night owl. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I'm an entrepreneur, so I can make my own schedule. And it's very justified and righteous about that. And that's just how it was. And I didn't really examine it very much. I also didn't correlate the fact that I would be getting sick more often than I had in previous years. And I was getting anxious. I was just getting so overwhelmed with the amount of things I had to do for my businesses. I was living in the middle of Manhattan and just kind of was culminating. But when it really hit that tipping point of I started taking my business on the road and delving into this concept of becoming a digital nomad. So really before my business was ready, taking, it on the road and adding jet lag into these maladaptive behaviors and what resulted was not a pretty picture. And of course I can laugh about it now, what have you, but at the time it was so scary. And it was also felt very shameful. And it felt like a real question of, is this just how it's going to be now? Am I going to be able to go back to this? Because I kept trying, night after night after night, and I would just be laying there. And I really began to be scared that this was a new state for me. And when it got to one of its worst points, I was traveling, I was in Croatia. I went to the doctors there with Google Translate, not even speaking the language. And they didn't really know what to do with me. So I left with their version, like their generic version for Ambien there. And it was this kind of wake up moment for me, pun intended, of there has to be another way. And what is the plan here? How do I transition off of then taking something there? You have to follow something that basically, kids and anyone you would think would be a given. And yet for me, it was not coming. So that began this kind of quest to really transform my sleep. And what I discovered for myself was, one, just totally transformative. And two, became a thing of, why aren't we all discussing this in the area of what it takes to transform and strengthen our circadian rhythm, this conversation of chronobiology, which is really looking at the science of time and how we are managing our time impacts our health. And then also looking at the structures of how I'm putting together my day and what that actually from the start of the day, the minute I open my eyes, how that can really impact the quality of sleep that I'm getting later on in the night. So a lot of cool things came out of it.
And as entrepreneurs, we face a set of challenges, unlike someone that might just be working for somebody else 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so we take that home with us a lot of times. We go across that virtual line in our home sometimes, and especially now, most people are working from home. We cross that virtual line. Well, those stresses and those pain points are still with us. And a lot of times we take them into the bedroom. So that manifestation is we don't get the proper sleep. We wake up in the morning, we're exhausted. Our mind doesn't want to get out of bed. We're not ready for the day. And what are some quick tips for people that are looking to, and I downloaded this form that you have. It's wonderful. And I believe that all the listeners are going to be able to get this form. It's called the Optimized Bedroom, 18 Strategic Changes to Create the Perfect Sleep Environment. And actually, it was an eye-opener for me. A lot of great information, but how can people get this form, first of all?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, if you go to sleepisaskill.com, we have a get started page on there. And right there, all you do is put in your name, email, and then we'll send over to you that downloadable PDF. And it's really meant to kind of be a guide of a bunch of low-tech things that you can do to transform your sleep environment. And then if you want to get more biohackery, if that's a word, then you can add some high-tech
It sounds like a word, biohackery. I like it. I like it a lot.
Right, exactly. We're just making things up today, exactly. But so with the high-tech side of things, then that can look at elements like cooling mattress pads, looking at red light therapies that you can do to help make a difference with your sleep, a number of things that can test your air quality. And so we can really go down the rabbit hole on a few different things that can really be something that might not be in our vision of what could be impacting our sleep. But once it's there, it's kind of get that blind spot. Like, oh my goodness, then suddenly my sleep stats change, my heart rate lowers, my HRV improves, all of those things. Or just a couple tweaks.
And most of us know the basic low-hanging fruit of don't drink caffeine after a certain time, don't do alcohol in excess, don't look at your screen in bed, put your phone 6 or 10 feet or in a different room altogether. What are some other hacks for people to get a good night's sleep besides the one that most of us already know?
So I think one, and this is not meant to be a place of semantics or anything, but really just a context to come from, is really taking on this concept of sleep being a skill. And the reason I say that is that so many people come to me and they have a lot of labels about how they are, and then that determines their results in that area. So for example, they might come and say, I've been a night owl, I've been a bad sleeper, I'm a light sleeper, I'm an insomniac, I'm a this, I'm a that. And believe me, I've labeled myself all those things. When I was in the heights of my sleep issues, I was convinced it's like, oh, I have sleep anxiety. So now when sleep comes around, I get anxious about even the idea. It's by operating within that reality, then I was continuing to create that experience for myself time and time again. So first, really shifting the context that this is simply a skill. And the skill, I do get the irony in the 21st century, it lands a bit better. If you were to go back into hunter-gatherer days and try to make this argument, it might not land in the same way. But because really post-Edison, we've been swimming in an environment that's so kind of alien to how we used to function. So before the sun would rise, that would be the cue to wake up. The temperature would rise as another cue to the body, and then it would set. And then we would really, beyond maybe a bonfire, we would be pretty much tethered to that sunrise and sunset. Now we don't operate like that anymore. So because of that, we can, get a little bit deeper on how we can bring things back online within these parameters. But really what you want to do is move back your relationship to your sleep to connect more to this conversation of the basics. And so if we to start at just a couple things that we can do to make a difference with our sleep, really we want to also shift that context to the beginnings of the day, which is kind of counterintuitive. So if you get nothing out of anything that I'm saying today, one of the things I want to make sure that we leave with is if you were to do nothing else but start your day and go outside and get morning sunlight with no sunglasses, no hats on, no scarves, as much skin is exposed as possible, that can really help make a tremendous difference with the strengthening of your circadian rhythm. And so what I mean by that is that bright light really acts as what we know as sunlight anchoring. And essentially from that time of that bright light that you get, about 16 hours later, you can anticipate that you'll begin to get tired. So we are connected with that first shot of light. And then when later on down in the day, what time we'll actually have that sleep onset. So I think many of us can relate to that element of, you might be dragging throughout the day and what have you. And then you get to that predisposed bedtime of yours and yet you're not tired. And a lot of that has to do with our kind of maladaptive light behaviors. So full spectrum sunlight will then also provide with that vitamin D, and that's an essential ingredient to actually creating serotonin, and serotonin is important for melatonin production in the evening. So this is all very much interconnected. So that's one thing that you can start to do. And also, being behind a window that will still get you some sunlight and that can still make a difference, but it's still going to block some of these key, that full spectrum light that we're looking to take in to really improve that circadian strength. And so ideally we're getting outside. And then the second thing is on the flip side of light, you want to get darkness. So I make the argument that we're really in a dark deprived society. And so much of us, certainly when I was living in Manhattan, you're always had the opportunity to be surrounded by as much light as possible so that you could live on this 24-hour kind of schedule.
Well, living in Manhattan alone is going to give you insomnia. I mean,
yes,
there's the reason. I could have told you that.
Thank you. Yes.
You're living out west now, right? You're on the West Coast now, correct?
Yes, I am. Yeah. So my boyfriend and I did finally, once I kind of transformed my sleep, we were able to, because at first I thought this whole dream of being a digital nomad was not for me. I can't even get myself together to sleep. How can I be a digital nomad? And so once I was able to heal that sleep and then go to optimize it, then we became travelers. We've been traveling internationally for the last over 3 years. And now with COVID, we've been settled on the West Coast for now. But yes, it's once, depending on your environment, there's, a whole branch of study looking at health geography and where we choose to settle, what that does to our health in general. So really taking, responsibility and ownership of our choices. And then depending on whatever we do choose, then certainly doing what it takes to ensure that we're giving the body what it needs. And part of that is that rhythms of nature of just simply sunrise and sunset. And I hope that doesn't land as like, oh, come on, who cares about sunrise and sunset? Because that's how it would have landed to me.
Poor people in Alaska, right?
Yes. Oh, my goodness. I have a few clients actually in Alaska and Sweden and some of these spots where they have to have for months at a time, total darkness or total light.
Right.
So you can imagine that conversation. But back to your original question of what are just some things we can do. In addition, you want to seek out that darkness because melatonin is known as the hormone of darkness. And for so many of us, we don't think of how even just a couple of the basic lights in our environment in the evening, what that's doing to deplete some of our melatonin production. There's some fascinating studies on really significant amounts that are depleted in our ability to create that melatonin in the evening just from the light that's around us. So that's one thing we want to do. Certainly once we go into the bedroom, total darkness. And then you can take a look at, that PDF for other tricks around there. But then finally, one of the third things that you can do is understand our temperature and what temperature plays in the role of sleep. So essentially what we want to be doing is getting our body temperature as high as possible throughout the day, because that's when in a healthy functioning body that has a strong circadian rhythm, we would have that peak in the daytime and then it would drop. And in the evening, what we're looking to cultivate is a drop between 2 to 3 degrees in body temperature, which maybe doesn't sound like that much, but it is a lot. And if you have a weak circadian rhythm, then many people are not experiencing that dip and then they're not getting sleepy at the times that we want to. And then even if they do fall asleep at that higher body temperature, the quality is not there in the same way it could be. So really optimizing for that temperature element of things. And there's a few things you can do around that too.
And one of the main topics of this show is not just business, but work-life balance and making sure that Your personal life is in order. You have your personal goals set before you work backwards and reverse engineer and figure out what kind of business you want to be, whether you be a digital nomad or whether you have a brick and mortar. It doesn't matter. It's a 30,000-foot view of everything. We talk about morning routines. I don't think I've ever heard somebody talk about a sleep routine. And you're kind of painting the picture of you need to have this routine. Go to bed at about the same time. Make sure that you don't have any secondary or tertiary lights. Leave your device out of your room. I mean, that's a big one. We get the call of the siren, the social media siren. We want to check one more time to see who liked our post on Facebook and who liked our post on Instagram and all these things. And that doesn't allow our brains to disconnect and get that proper rest. And without proper rest, there's no creative ideas, there's no energy, there's no zest and zeal for life, there's no fun with the kids, and it's all tied together. And I think it's really important that people have that nighttime routine, and you're kind of painting the picture of what that means. Why are sleep deprivation rates at an all-time high right now? And I have a feeling I know your answer. You're going to talk about COVID, and what can we do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So it has been alarming, the amount of traffic that we've experienced at Sleep as a Skill, of the number of people really, really suffering and struggling with their sleep. And there's a number of reasons, of course, around that. Not only even pre-COVID, we were seeing sleep deprivation rates really rising and continuing to rise, particularly in the past decade. But once COVID hit, then we seem to experience a number of other kind of groups of people that were struggling. So one being the group that maybe isn't financially impacted so much, but their structures that they had been accustomed to, because sleep loves structure. And what's so interesting about this concept around circadian rhythm entrainment is how much we determine we really entrain the strength of our circadian rhythm. And so much of it comes from these external cues. So say if we had that kind of proper 9 to 5 or what have you, and that parameters and the boundaries and the discipline that we had to really invoke to bring that about, sleep actually really does enjoy that as much as we might kind of dread it.
Right.
And when that's taken away and now you're self-managing, that can be really, really challenging for people, particularly who haven't built that muscle in that area and it's kind of just been outsourced to their employer or what have you. Now, there's that group. And then there's also the group that, of course, sleep and feeling safety and kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, knowing that we'll have a reliable roof overhead, income, food, all of those things will be coming our way. And unfortunately, for so many people, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. And so that goes into more of that conversation of how much this skill set too of creating that inner locus of control so that we don't have kind of that hyper aroused brain state at night and the kind of rumination, but also what we can do to, because of course we don't want to be in denial about the things that are happening. There's some very legitimate things to have to be in action around right now for many people. So we want to help support people that during the daylight hours when we can actually do something about it, that we are moving as much as we possibly can in the direction to basically calm our brains to know that we are at the source of what's going on in our lives versus that dreaded, kind of laying there in bed for many hours, freaking out, really. So we see that. But then also I've shared about the kind of ancestral look at sleep and how for thousands and thousands of years, our sleep really was more basic. We were more connected to outdoor environments, but really since 2016, when the World Health Organization basically came out with some stats around that the average person was spending 90% of their days inside. And that was back in 2016 before the pandemic. Now, presumably it's gone up even more since then. Mm-hmm. So what that means is that we really have created a kind of zoo animal like environment for ourselves. And because we're all doing it, we don't think it's that weird. But if you pan out on this and also look at the results, unfortunately, of so many people that are sleep deprived, it's not working. And right. So this kind of way of being inside, you're breathing in recycled air throughout the day. In addition to that, you're not having that same fluctuation in that temperature that we spoke to, because before you would be laying outside, you would wake up as the sun would rise. And as the sun rises, 1, you get that light cue. 2, you get the temperature cue because suddenly it's warmer because of the sun. And you only have a little bit of time before the sun's going to set. You got to do all the things you got to do. You got to be active. You got to move. And then once the sun sets, you're kind of party over. You're relaxing now. And that's just what you're doing. And the temperature drops. We've been so accustomed to that. And now that we've divorced ourselves from that pattern with indoor AC and, central air and all of this stuff, it's now created a mismatch. Pair that with all of the kind of gadgets and gizmos that we have available for nonstop interactivity and all that alien light sources, all of those things make for a recipe where our body just doesn't really know what time it is. Honestly, in your brain, there's something known as this suprachiasmatic nucleus, which acts as your master clock. That's why this light is so important, because it's directly connected to your eyes. And so that master clock is continually seeking out to understand what it needs to be doing at what given time. And if you don't give it the right cues, then it's not going to kind of set you up powerfully, and you're going to struggle more than you need to fall asleep, to wake up. And there's a lot we can do to make things more simple than all that.
Well, it just becomes a vicious cycle. You can't get out of that cycle. How does diet affect your sleep? We know not to eat sugar late at night and not to do caffeine late in the day, but how does the diet that you have for your breakfast or your lunch or dinner, how does that play into your ability to get a good night's rest?
Oh, it's a fascinating area. So one, I have just about every person I'm working with at Sleep Business Skill hooked up to different sleep trackers. And I can tell just across the world if someone has either eaten something pretty late or drank something pretty late. And the way that I know that's one of those two is that I'll see a clear deviation of their heart rate has gone up. Their body temperature has gone up. Their HRV, their heart rate variability, has tanked. Their respiratory rate has gone up. And that comes from, that tends to come as a result from eating late, which spikes glucose, depending certainly on the type of food, but also just from the sheer fact of having to digest. And then the problem is if your digestion takes a lot of energy, you're having to shunt all this blood to your stomach. And that takes away from all the processes that we would like to prioritize during sleep. One, namely among them that we've recently discovered in recent years, this conversation of lymphatic drainage and the brain cleansing process. So the more that we're distracting from all of those really important key functions of sleep with digestion, then you're going to wake up feeling more tired than you might. Right. In addition, and that's one of the things that actually can raise body temperature, which I think is really fascinating. And like we discussed, that's a big factor for getting great sleep. So if you're eating late, your temperature is going to go up, and then it's going to be a mismatch for the body to say, well, is it time to go to sleep? I don't know, because now it's very confusing. So that's something. And if anyone wants to go deeper on that, there's a great book called Circadian Code that has some fascinating research on this. And you can also look at something called circadian rhythm intermittent fasting. And that's just a fancy series of words to basically help us to aim to eat within sunrise and sunset and cease eating after sunset, more in alignment with how we would have eaten for thousands of years, really.
Great information. All right, question. You had said 16 hours from the time you wake up to the time that your body is ready to go back to bed, which tells me 8 hours of sleep. I've been taught my whole life that the older you get, the less recovery time that you need. Tell me what the truth is on that.
Yeah, great point. So our sleep is certainly dynamic, and it does change over the years and over the seasons of our lives. And so for teenagers, they're going to require a decent amount more of sleep than in our prime of adulthood. And then as we move into certainly 65 and over, we often see this kind of drop in total sleep time. So some of the numbers have pointed to around 7 to 9 hours for the average adult. And then once we get past 65, then really dropping and having it not be completely uncommon to see people in the 5s and 6 and low 7s in those age groups.
Oh, you hear about all the time that these business people, they say, oh, I get 4 hours a night. My first thought is, okay, your batteries aren't being completely recharged. You're not optimizing your body and your mind and your health to the best of your ability, and you're lacking some sleep. And of course, you can't catch up with your sleep. If you go 4 nights in a row of getting 3 hours a night of sleep, you don't automatically catch up because you have one good night's sleep. It doesn't happen that way, right?
Right. And that's actually, I think, a reason why many people might relate to this conversation where you've potentially seen a bit more about sleep in the news and the press that in recent years than you might have before. One, of course, because it's becoming even more of a problem. And two, is because one of those big things that I alluded to a little bit, but to describe it more, is that lymphatic drainage. And that's kind of one of the bigger elements to come out of sleep research in recent years, because it's pointing to this idea that how we're behaving day in and day out can down the road really set us up if we're not prioritizing that sleep. And if we are being like that person that says, 4 or 5 hours, that's all I get, then they are endangering themselves to, based on some of this current research, to potentially be setting themselves for neurodegenerative issues down the road. Now, the reason for that is if you're not cleansing your brain, basically, so doing that lymphatic drainage each night, what can accumulate are these amyloid beta plaques. And that plaque, so you get this plaque hardening of the brain. And when you look at a brain of someone with kind of chronic sleep deprivation and compare it with someone with late stage Alzheimer's, you'll see those very similar plaques that accumulate. Unfortunately, once you kind of get those plaques done, we don't fully understand really how to remove that. And so, there's certain things that we can do, but it's not, to your point, you can't just have a couple nights of sleep and then wash that all away.
Right. It doesn't work that way. Well, Mollie, we can have part 2 and part 3 of this conversation. There's a lot more questions I have, but our time is up. How can people connect with you?
Sure. Yeah. So going to sleepisaskill.com really acts as kind of the bucket for a bunch of different things. So you go there, and then one, you can get that free downloadable PDF. So for sure, do that. 2, that can also sign you up for a weekly newsletter. Every Monday, I release what's called Mollie's Monday Obsessions as it relates to sleep. And so, you couldn't tell, I'm a pretty obsessive personality. So I go to town on all the things that I'm obsessing about sleep, and share all kinds of fun sleep stats and sleep experiments, all kinds of stuff. So that's every Monday. Then you can also take a sleep assessment if you want to get more kind of hands-on feedback around your specific sleep. Then you can also sign up for the Sleep is a Skill podcast. We also have online training courses if you want to go deeper. All of those require some sort of sleep tracker. So just being prepared to grab one of those. And then, but in addition, there's a sleep bot on there too. So you can kind of chat in there, and then we'll always get back to you as well. And
it all starts with sleepisaskill.com. Mollie McGlocklin, thank you so much for taking the time on Business Edge Radio, and good luck in the future.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
So many great ideas on how to make sure you are setting yourself up for sleepy time success. My biggest takeaway is that our beds need to be a place for sleep, and the environment around our beds should be set up to maximize our time in La La Land. I encourage you to check out Mollie's website, sleepisaskill.com, to get even more great ideas. Fans of Business Edge Radio, I have a very special treat for you. As you know, I love barbecuing and making up any excuse to get myself outdoors. And that's why I'm so excited to partner with Barbecue Nation. They make incredible sauces and rubs and spices and meat shredders and grill scrapers and lots more. And they're offering a deal for our listeners. Check out bbqnation.net. And when you place an order for any of their products, you'll receive a 20% discount off your order when you enter the word EDGE at checkout. Looking for a magnet that lists your cooking temperatures or different types of smoking woods? They got that. Need a heavy-duty set of meat shredders for your pulled pork or shredded chicken sliders? They got that too. Or my favorite is their Magic Dust Everything Rub that will spice up just about any dish. Log on to bbqnation.net. That's bbqnation.net today. And when you enter the code EDGE at checkout, you'll receive a 20% discount just because you hang out with us on the show. Barbecue Nation, get your grill on. If you know anything about me, you know that I love my early mornings, and I really love a good cup of fresh roasted coffee. There's nothing better than getting started before the rest of the world with a good cup of joe. That's why I'm so excited to have Mountain Creek Coffee as a partner. The process is so simple. You order, they roast, they ship, you enjoy. They don't roast your beans until an order is placed, which guarantees the absolute freshest coffee that you can get. Check out their artisan dark roast, medium roast, or decaf beans at mtncreekcoffee.com. And when you put in the code EDGE at checkout, you will receive 20% off your first order. I prefer the dark roast because of its full body and bold flavor. You order, they roast, they ship, you enjoy. Log on to mtncreekcoffee.com and enter the code EDGE at checkout, and you will receive a 20% discount off your first order. Pretty cool stuff. Mountain Creek Coffee and Business Edge Radio, a partnership brewed out of the love of coffee. See what I did right there?
Time for Cooking Corner with Mitch. Yum.
Welcome to my kitchen, everyone, which lately has been filled with luscious vegetable dishes from all the fresh produce that we've been taking out of our garden on a pretty much daily basis. Today, we're going to use some of those beautiful things that may be growing in your garden, ready to be enjoyed. We're making a homemade roasted garlic, basil, tomato hummus. To begin with, grab yourself a nice cold beverage, turn on some of your favorite music, and join me in the kitchen. Now, the debate over the origins of hummus is old, probably as old as hummus itself. The Greeks like to claim it as their own, but the Arabs are equally adamant in their claims. Even the Israelis claim it. So who's right? The honest truth is that no one really knows for sure. With that being said, based on historical information, hummus likely originated from ancient Egypt. According to several historical resources, the earliest mention of hummus dates back to Egypt in the 13th century. Chickpeas were, and still are, abundant in the Middle East and are still commonly eaten. In fact, the word hummus means chickpea in Arabic. Historical documents show a dish very similar to hummus that we eat today being consumed in Cairo in the 13th century. But that doesn't stop other areas from continuing to claim hummus as their own. And regardless of where it's originally from, hummus is a delicious dip and spread that's enjoyed by all cultures, and it's become increasingly popular in the U.S. over the last few years. It's become a great example of a crossover food, so much that some people find it so common now that they don't even realize its roots. Thank goodness for me, right? Step 1. Add a 15-ounce can of chickpeas, or garbanzo beans is another name for them, into a bowl. If you want to be a purist, you can buy a bag of chickpeas from the grocery store and get them cooked up before making your hummus. Or you can just buy the pre-cooked ones in a can. Together with the garbanzo beans, add a quarter cup of fresh lemon juice. The bottled product will work, but if you can, use a fresh lemon. A quarter cup of tahini paste, which is simply toasted ground sesame seeds that are used in a lot of Mediterranean and North African cooking. Your local store will have this on the shelf. A half a cup of fresh basil leaves, hopefully from your garden. Half cup of diced tomatoes, hopefully from your garden. 1 to 2 garlic cloves, depending upon your taste. 2 tablespoons of olive oil or whatever oil you have in your cupboard. A half a bunch of parsley for color. Have about a half a cup of water set aside, and you want salt, pepper to taste. In a food processor, process your chickpeas, the tahini paste, the garlic, and the lemon juice, and slowly add your oil as your processor is working. Once everything is all together and happy, slowly add your water until the consistency is to your liking. Add some parsley for color and stir in some salt and pepper to taste. Now, if you don't care for my basil and tomato idea, feel free to take those ingredients out and add something more that you like roasted bell peppers or grilled onions or jalapenos, black or green olives, fresh herbs, cucumbers. Or you can do what I did the other night, and I snuck in some squash into the recipe for my family. Nobody likes squash in my family like I do, but I have to admit, they didn't shy away from eating everything that was on their plate before I told them what I had done. Sneaky dad. Give it a try. Let me know how this one turns out. Well, that will do it for this edition of Business Edge Radio. And my parting shot today is this. A truly rich man is one whose children run into his arms when his hands are empty. Unknown. Unless he has some squash hummus. Until next time, this is Mitch Graff reminding you to live with passion. I'll catch you later.
Thanks for hanging out with Business Edge Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to subscribe, rate, and review. Then hop on over to www.mitchgraff.com to get even more meat and potatoes. We also invite you to follow the show at facebook.com/Unleashed Tribe. The most valuable asset that any of us has is our time. And we thank you for choosing to spend some of your precious time with us.